Well, obviously, these people can't retire. How dare you even consider it, Josh? How dare you? I mean, look, the numbers speak for themselves. They only got a 74% probability of success, and that's on a proposed plan. Their current plan is only 5%. Oh, my goodness. We need to have a 100% probability of success. Yeah, forget the fact that under the current proposed plan, they're still leaving 2.625 million in future dollars, but that's about 1.4 million in today's dollars for the kids at the death at 95 years old. But hey, we're only 74% probability of success. That, how dare you think we can retire? Man, look at this. Look at this, man. Some of these times they run out of money right. Well, I mean, that's not much, but well, I mean, the median is still right here. The median in today's dollars is still well between 0 and $5 million. The median is this dark blue, the vein of life, if you will. I mean, so the median is growing. They retire, then it kind of levels off. It goes down a little bit, but but still, that's not the median. We got to worry about the worst case scenario. I mean, still 5% of the time they run out of money, but 25% of the time they have still over a couple $100,000. Of course, never mind these numbers up here. And by the way, I am using a pretty low rate of return of what I'm using for them. I'll share with you in just a second so you can get a chuckle. But still, I mean, look. See this confidence right here? This is when they're 95 years old. 5% of the time they have no money. Well, up to 24% of the time they have no money. Well, that's actually not true. But forget Social Security and their pension. Between Social Security and their pension, they still got a guaranteed of $80,000 a year of income. But there's only a 74% probability of success. That's not, you can't do that, Josh. Don't do that to people. I mean, look at this. Look at this. They spend 120,000 in their go-go years. Their slow-go years, they drop it by 20%. And their no-go years, they drop it by 25%. And this does not include the property tax in their expensive Northeast state. And it does not include health insurance, which ain't cheap either. Oh, it does cover income tax as well. So between their income taxes, everything's in their 401k, plus property tax in their expensive Northeast state, plus health insurance, they're going to be spending, probably another $60,000, $70,000 a year on top of this. This is just their discretionary expenditures. I highly suspect that probably won't come to fruition like we're assuming. But hey, well, I mean, my goodness, Josh, how dare you consider these guys retire? That's just, you can't do that to them. I mean, they're going to spend more in retirement than they do while they're working by a significant matter, without question. That only makes sense, right? And they'll spend more in retirement than they do while they're working for the rest of their lives. That only makes sense, right? I mean, that seems reasonable to me. And I'm being facetious here, by the way. Last time I did a sarcastic thing, some of you guys didn't know I was being sarcastic. The point being here, my friends, listen, enough of the sarcasm here. So I'm working with these guys. Great people, middle class people, you know what I'm saying? The woman is kind of lower middle class, the husband's middle class, but just great, just regular blue-blooded Americans, man. Middle income work in a Northeast state. Just corporate lackeys, just like you and I, white collar, mid management corporate lackeys. But they've been saving. And just nice guys, nice people. Husband, wife, just love them. 2 kids they put through college. Just good people. The kind of people that are salt of the earth. And the people like this exist everywhere. There are even people like this in Seattle, guarantee. They've got a little bit of debt, not much. $250,000 left on their mortgage. House isn't worth a huge amount of money, worth about $650,000. I know that's a lot, but it's a Northeast place. They're never going to leave. The kids are it's just a great couple, man. They've been in the same house for many, many years. When they got together, they were renting for like $750 a month in New York City, I think is what they said. Just the same. It's just like Charlotte and me. The same story over and over and over again. They work, they put their head down. They work, they put their head down. They're not miserable. They're not like freaking, hey, this is the greatest thing since sliced bread. But she, as most women are, the maternal instincts are like, what about healthcare? Because they're both, in their late 50s. And what I'm saying, I think he's way overestimating his expenditures, frankly. But, we don't know, man. We don't know. Because I said, I don't think you're going to spend that much more in retirement than you are pre-retirement. I don't see that happening because, again, pre-retirement, they're not even spending what they're showing here. And post-retirement, I highly suspect they won't. But either way, that's what they want to use for the numbers. We use that for the numbers. All right. So you can see they're spending pretty good amounts of money. And again, this doesn't include their income tax, which is pretty significant because the state they live in and the fact that everything's in a 401k, plus their health insurance, which is pretty significant, plus their property tax and their homeowners and all that. All right, so let's pause it real quick. Because always someone says, well, how do I get to 100%? 100% probability of success. I said, sister, that means you're not spending enough. Because even here at 74%, we're still leaving $2.6 million to the kids. That doesn't include a house. That's probably worth in 30 years $1 million. We're only appreciating the house by 1% a year either, by the way. So what the difference was between their probability of success at, what would I say, 5%, I think is what it was. Hold on a second. 5% probability of success versus 74%. Let me just show you what the difference was in terms of these two numbers. It's nuts. All right, so right now they got 88% in basically stable value funds and only 12% in equities. I'm only giving it a 2.8% probability of success, or rates of return, average rates of return on a pretty conservative portfolio. All right, so we'll just say 3% essentially, with a 5.5% standard deviation. So what we do, I don't have my calculator, but what we do is we take 5.5 times that by 2, that's 11, add another 5.5, that's 16.5, subtract by this right here, so 16.5 minus 3 would give us 13.5 roughly. So on any given year, this portfolio could be down 13.5%. $1 million would be worth $870 essentially, if that makes sense, on any given year. The only difference is we said, what if we made a growth allocation where we got 5.5% rate of return? So a 70-30 portfolio, a Wellington-ish type of fund, 70-30, 5.5%. Wellington is average well above that historically, but you can see I'm using very, very deflated rates of return going forward. So we got a 5.5% average rate of return, yet our standard deviation is quite high. That's the downside risk. And so if you look at, for simplicities, I got to do in my head, 12% standard deviation. All right, we times that by 3. That's 36%. Subtract by 5.5. That's 30.5% a rate of downside risk, which is the worst Wellington has ever had. Wellington has never had a 30% decline. So we've never had a downside risk like what we're showing here at all, ever. But yet I'm using that because I like to work at kind of like the worst case scenarios and just basic financial planning stuff. Obviously, worst case scenarios, we all get nuked. And you can see that's the only difference. Look at this. And yet you can see that one little change, basically a doubling of our rates of return with a tripling of our standard deviation or downside risk. We go from a 5% probability of success to a 74% probability of success, where we're leaving $2.6 million to the kiddos too. That's the only difference we made, man. Crazy. And on top of that, there's no way they're going to spend like they're showing. It's just not going to happen. You can see this. You just conservative-minded people who drive cars with $200,000 or 200,000 miles on them, who basically live in the same house for 30 years. They're not spending more in retirement than they did pre-retirement. They're not buying a catamaran. They're not buying a freaking ranch in Montana. They're just I hate to say simple because that sounds like simpleton. It's not. Just regular old-fashioned, salt-of-the-earth, middle American, in these cases, Yankees. And it's the same story over again. But check this out. But before, at 74%, and I'm trying to get them at 75%, frankly. They're not retiring this year anyway. They probably got another 3. But I'm trying to get them at 75%. Because I know people can tighten their belt. They do. And I'll do another video here in just a second to prove that. But in this case, it doesn't matter. We're spending way more than they're going to show. But either way, they're not even retiring anyway for the next couple of years. Anyway. So all we did is we changed their investment portfolio to say, hey, look, at some point you're going to get at stable value. You're going to go a little bit more aggressive. I'm giving you a 5.5% rate of return with a 30% downside risk. That's pretty conservative minded for sure. But we had you living until 95. Well, if we both died at 90, so that's going to be another 30 years ahead of you and retiring for 30 years. What if you both died at 90? Now we're at 80% and we're leaving the kids $2.8 million. I mean, just 2 tweaks. That's all we did. We tweaked the age of death and we tweaked the rate of return. And you can see we went from 5 to 17 to 80, 5 to 17 to 74 to 80. Just those 2 tweaks. I tell you, man, this is why you just got to be very careful of retirement planning software because it's just so sensitive on inputs for the outputs. And if you just sit there and you say, I'm only at 74%, I'm going to have to dig the ditches for another 3 years, I would challenge you to revisit this. I really would. Anyway, love your thoughts. We'll see you.